Hi everyone, my name is Steve Lawson.
And my name is Anja Stefana.
We'd like to thank everyone for taking the time today to learn a bit more about the SIGNA Voyager. So we are here live today at our global headquarters in Waukesha, Wisconsin, where we'll be showing you the SIGNA Voyager system very soon. But before we do so, we would like to review some of the features, the key features of the system to give you an idea of what the system is capable of. So this, just like many other systems in our portfolio, has the Air family of products. So the Air coil is the first coil, the first thing that came to the systems, but we also have some other features around Air workflow and Air image quality that will give you a better patient experience and a better experience when you're operating the system, and even the images are much improved with Air image quality. So one of the things that we first launched was the Air coil. So this system has the Air anterior array coil that's available, but also the Air multi-purpose coil. So this provides a lot better patient comfort, versatility, wider coverage. I think probably a better way to get an idea of how this coil looks and performs, maybe I just quickly do a video feed over to Anya, who is available in our scan suite, and she can show you what that's like.
And here is the air coil. So I just want to show you really the large field of view of the air coil, especially my height is 5'10", or 175 centimeters. And you can see how nicely it will really cover in one shot the abdomen and the pelvis. And I just want to show how flexible this coil is. So you can hopefully imagine how versatile you can use it. So you can put it on any long bone structures, you can wrap it around an arm. You can do whatever you want with this coil, and it's really fun to work with it.
Thank you, Anya. So inside of the coil, there are a lot of elements. These are very high density coil elements, and you're able to use Air Touch directly on the system, and it will automatically select the coils and elements for you without the user having to manually figure that out. Or have a long list of different coil configurations. So you just simply turn the icon on. I think you guys will see a bit more of this while we're scanning in a little bit, but you'll get an idea as to how that performs. In addition to this as part of workflow, and I know that we're talking specifically about body imaging today, but we do have AirX also available, which is a really nice feature for slice placement on the images in brain imaging and also in knee imaging. So this uses an artificial intelligence and deep learning based model to be able to calculate slice planes, and it really can make it a lot easier for slice placement for the technologist, but then the scans that will be done repeatedly, a lot of neuro exams have repeated scans in the future, so you're able to compare those scans with previous ones, and everything is in the same scan plane. So it's a really nice feature for longitudinal studies, but it also saves a lot of time as well. And then also with Air image quality, we do have on the system something called Air Recon. So one thing that you typically would have to do when you do small field of view imaging is to use no phase wrap. And the less no phase wrap that you would use, the shorter the scan times can become. However, if you use too small of a field of no phase wrap factor, then you tend to see a lot of wrap artifacts coming in. So Air Recon is a smart reconstruction that allows you to do this, saving you scan time and improving the overall image quality. And as I mentioned, today we'll be talking specifically around body imaging. So with body imaging, we have a lot of different T1 different options available on the system. So with the Lava Flex, by default is already turned on those, so those scans are really short, very quick. But you also have options to go even faster if you wanted to. So using Visco to be able to accelerate and go much faster than Lava. However, we also have a new Sorry, I think there was a problem with the audio there for a second. So in regards to T1 weighted imaging, we do have a lot of options here for this particular system. So Lava Flex, you're able to get really nice images. We've got turbo turned on these, so the scan times are quite short, rapid acquisitions. Sometimes you might need to go much faster. So using Disco might be an option that you would need to use for that. But on the latest software revision, we also have Hypersense, which is GE's compressed sensing technique that's fully compatible with these scans. So if you need to scan faster or higher resolution, you can easily do that with the addition of Hypersense into the portfolio on T1 weighted imaging. Or maybe your patients might not be able to hold their breath. Sometimes you're able to, you might need to use Navigators. So Navigator would give you the ability to do a totally free breathing examination. And then as another option as well, then you can do a Disco Star or Lava Star. So this is an entirely free breathing technique. I know we've got a lot of bit more to cover with the scan session, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into that. If you guys have questions, feel free to put those into the chat in the Teams meeting. We'll be able to address those either now or during the scanning or even after the session itself. So, all right, so without any further delay, let's just jump right into that.
Okay, now I'm going to position my volunteer. I will use the head coil, even though we are going to scan his abdomen and his pelvis, but we can leave the head coil on the table. It makes it easy for you and make my switches between volunteers and patients even more efficient. Okay, I will get the squeeze ball, and then we will use the Air AA coil for abdomen and pelvis scanning, and I don't have to add any bellows onto my volunteers. This will be use our Navigator for the gating. Nothing for me else to put than the coil itself. And I'm going to just land rank him with the IntelliTouch. And he will go into the bore. The coil doesn't have to be stretched down. I can just easily put everything loose on my patient, and you can see how nicely it fits on him. And that's all we have to do for the scanning session. So here's the user interface. We have already found the patient's name and typed everything in. We used our protocol. And then we just go ahead and start with the Threepoint localizer in the liver. Maybe a few words to our AirTouch. So as you know that we don't have to select coil modes anymore, we can just make sure that we use entirely the coil. We have to plug in the coils, and then you see here on the user interface that we currently are using the PA coil, the head coil, because I haven't removed it from the table, is in use, and then also the RAA coil. And AirTouch will do the work and really understand where the coils are on that volunteer, because we are creating, before the localizer runs, a sensitivity map where we know exactly where every coil element is where on the patient, and the algorithm will only select coils needed for the scanning. And we will show that more while we are scanning live.
So I noticed there that there's a task built in right below your Threepoint localizer. So this is nice for tracker placement, right? Because we don't, like as you mentioned, we don't use bellows, but the system has intelligence to be able to find the diaphragm of the liver, and then it can accurately place the Navigator pulse directly on the liver, so the user wouldn't have to manually prescribe that.
Yeah. And as you saw when I opened up the first sequence, before I prescribed anything, you saw that the Navigator has been placed automatically because the system did that for us, as you just said. So that's really the convenience about the auto tracker placement, that We don't have to run extra localizer to understand where the diaphragm is moving. It can just do that on a normal 3-point localizer, and it finds it all the time, which is really, really convenient.
That's great. So the scan that we're running now is a T2 weighted scan, right, with fat suppression?
Yeah. And on top of the T2 weighting is the propeller. So what we do here is we are correcting the motion with the propeller sequence, which is running and reading out the phase waves and blades. And then on top of the propeller, we are using the Navigator, which is really, really kind of like double removing the noise out, the movement out of the bellows. So here we see our Navigator window, which is showing up automatically when we run the Navigator. And some nice features here as well. First thing, which we really should highlight, is that the entire time while scanning, we can access it. So in case our patient is changing the breathing pattern and is maybe falling asleep and the green line is not where it was before, like with old solutions, the scanner would pause and stop and we have to repeat the scan. But here, what we can do is we can change the threshold while scanning. So the threshold is the red line, and you can, when I just like play with these icons here, you can see that the threshold can be lowered even while I'm scanning. So it's really a nice here. I lowered it a tiny little bit. So in case my volunteer or my patient would change the breathing, I can like adjust while scanning, which is really useful.
Or maybe your patient becomes more relaxed and their breathing is more shallow, right? You capture more points in respiration. And in that case, you could broaden out the acceptance window, right, to collect more data. So the acceptance window is the area between the two yellow points, so the very top line here and the very bottom.
Yeah, and here I am going to change the acceptance window just by scanning. If you want to pay attention to the yellow line, now I just open the acceptance window up. Now we show 30%, and you see you can do that while scanning. So this really allows you to use that technique even if the patient is changing the breathing pattern.
So it's important to note too, all of our sequences are compatible with the Auto Navigator and Navigator usage. So if you're doing, like right now we're doing propeller, but if you're doing like the next scan you've got here is a diffusion, you can use it on that scan too, or maybe it's 3 volumes or anything like that. You could easily just turn that on.
And also for the diffusion scan, I just go through the planes to see that the Navigator has been prescribed automatically. So again, nothing else for me to do. I can just trust the positioning and I don't have to worry about it.
Just quickly here, just show the tracker button there on the graphic toolbar where that's at. So that's the place that you save that in your protocol, right?
Yeah. So once that is checkmarked, it does automatically the tracker placement when the 3-plan localizer has the post-processing task edited. Maybe we can show that too while we are scanning. So how to get that task, post-processing task attached to the localizer. You just easily click on the localizer, go here to ask task, add post-processing, and then you see something automatically suggesting you, do you want to do the auto tracker placement? And when you go on it, set it up and save it, then it will immediately just add it to the localizer done. So in case you have usually breath hold protocols and you see that your patient doesn't do the breath hold well, you can always use that while you are scanning. So no need for you to repeat the localizer and find the localizer with that task already edited. You can just use the localizer you ran that day and just do that post-prescription and then you're done. So the next sequence, we will show that on a diffusion sequence. And then as Steve said, like all of our sequences are compatible with the Navigator, which is used. So also the T1 contrasts are compatible with the Navigator. We can do non-contrast angiography for the kidneys with the Navigator. So there's no stop.
So I noticed this next sequence that we've got here. This is a MRCP acquisition. This is the 3D volume, right? So just like many of our 3D volumes, you can just very simply use some techniques to make these scans a lot faster. Whenever you look at these particular scans, you know, maybe your patient's breathing slower, it's making your scan times a little bit longer. You could always turn on some acceleration to be able to reduce the scan time. You know, the air coil that we're using today has great parallel imaging performance, so you're able to use ARC on that, but maybe you need a little bit more.
And that is why we here are having set up the MRCP in 3D, and we added Hypersense to that sequence. So here you see in under the acceleration tab that the Hypersense factor is set to 1.3. So we are using our compressed sensing in order to accelerate that sequence, but we didn't even stop there. So we also used Hypercube to even add and accelerate that task more. So in order to do that, you can see here the excitation mode is set to focus. And what does that mean is that we in phase direction now don't read out the entire phase field of view anymore. We just like limit that to 80%, as you can see here, and that again allows you to scan us really, really fast. So maybe we just do that trick, but we are saving it. I will just reopen that sequence, and we will remove all the acceleration techniques like Hypersense here, and the imaging option. And then I will go here and switch it to selective, and we for sure have to read out then 100%. And then I also maybe have to oversample a little bit more. So you can see that the scan time is now almost like closer to 2 minutes. So it's almost 50%, which we save with using HyperWorks. Okay, the first sequence is done. Just look at the first results. We'll look them in our viewer in a little bit. I just start the next session. And since we have now the nice images, I just double check if I am right with my MRCP. I think that is where I expect it to be. Okay. There we can look at the images we just acquired. So the T2 propeller. Just scroll through the images slowly. So it's T2 with fed set and propeller. As a reminder, the patient did breathe the entire time during the scan, so it was really easy for him to do that. We have a nice fat suppression. And we covered the entire liver in free breathing.
So these are coronal T2 single shots, right? So I notice you've got a couple of those set up here to be able to show. I think these show really nice about this particular coil. Like we mentioned, that it does have great parallel imaging performance. So these are some nice examples to show that.
And just that everybody can see, so here under the acceleration tab, you see that is something new too. So since we are now able to scan with air coils also on Voyager, is that the factor of the acceleration has been opened up. Usually you would be used to accelerate only until a factor by 2. But now with having like air coils and having the coil element as close to the anatomy as possible and having like high channel counts and large field of views, is we are allowing you to accelerate even until a factor of 4. And we want to show you here during the scanning session that if you do acceleration factor by 2 or 3, you will have exactly the same image quality. You don't lose anything. So that really shows you where the air coils can help you with. And then maybe while this is running, just to show you some other really advantages of our new techniques. So I will just open up here the coronal view again. I want to like highlight here the 3-plane localizer. So here you see the sagittal plane. And you see coil elements in the back and in the front. And for the coronal, we mostly like almost select everything. That is not the thing I want to point out, but I want to show you when we switch to a different plane, that air touch is always with you and you don't have to worry about configuring any coils anymore. So with air touch, as we mentioned, when we run the 3-plane localizer, we create the sensitivity map and then the system does know where the coil elements in the back are and where the coil elements anteriorly are. And you see that by just the gray lights. Now, the system will automatically select only the coil elements in need for that scan, and these are the blue coil elements. And maybe I want to show you that even when selecting a less coverage here, S2I, so I want to like really have small coverage. And now I want to move my field of view. You see that immediately when moving my field of view, the coil selection is made automatically. And that is really, really, for me, a game changer. Because I have to admit that in the past, when I had to pick the coils, I sometimes forgot it. Yeah. And then it happens that you are scanning maybe for 2 or 3 minutes and you get only noisy images. Yep. But here with air touch, you don't have to worry about that. You just have to make sure that you have the coil plugged in, and then the system does it for you.
The entire array, right? You just turn on the big air AA icon, and then you're good. No problem.
So the diffusion is also already done. So I will just like highlight that. Next to the T2 propeller, this is the B50 value, and I will switch to the 700. Just want to show how nicely and less distorted these images are, how much signal you still have with higher B values. It's nice to see the kidneys and everything without distortion. And it's done in free breathing. So the MRCP is running, then we do the single shots. And then we want to show you also that the T1 contrast is available with the Navigator. So here we want to show you the T1 lava, and we will use the flex technique, which has Dixon in the background. So we are generating an in-phase and a post-phase image. And also here, auto tracker has been enabled. So when I scroll through the image, I see that the Navigator is there. And we can really create, if you want to, we cannot inject contrast media on our coworker, but you can use that sequence here really for a dynamic scan, which is convenient. So even if you have to inject contrast media and your patient maybe is too old to hold their breath or maybe doesn't understand the language, you are still able to do dynamic scans here as well.
For dynamic scanning, if you wanted to do like a delayed phase, this would be a good acquisition to run. You've already acquired all your information for the contrast arrival, but maybe in this particular case, you want to do a delayed phase. Free breathing could do that. as Anya mentioned, you could even do these as dynamics as well. Maybe you're not going to scan as much resolution, slightly reduce that a little bit to get those time frames down to 20 seconds or so. Easily be done with this particular scan. Or maybe you wanted something really fast. Then in that case, you could do something like disco, free breathing, very easily as well. So.
Then we just perform our ideal IQ for the liver quantification here. So it's just one breath hold scan we are going to scan on him, 17 seconds.
Yeah, this is an interesting scan where you're able to quantify the amount of fat inside of one's liver by using this scan. So very simple 20-second acquisition, and you get a lot of quantifiable information inside of that.
And now we switch just to the pelvis at the end. So I don't have to do another landmark. I don't have to pull the air coil further down. The coverage of the air coil is really, really large. So we can just continue by rerunning a localizer, and then Air Touch will understand where the coils are and will select the right parts there. Now, while this is running, we can look at some more images we acquired. So maybe first we want to look at the single shot images where we accelerate in different with different factors. So on the left-hand side, you see the single shot done with 2 accelerations. So you see here the breath hold scan time of 12 seconds. And on the right-hand side is nothing else changed besides accelerating by 3, and you can see that results in 3 seconds less of a breath hold time, and the images are looking pretty similar. So that is really something which is nice. You don't lose any information, and you can acquire way faster. Yeah, just that's the check. Then we did the lava flex at the end, so maybe we want to split our layout here. So where we have the water image, the fed image, the in-phase image, and the opposed phase image. Again, done in free breathing. Don't have the contrast media as mentioned, but hopefully you see what your capabilities are when doing a lava flex in free breathing here. Now I just go back and switch real quick to the last scan we are going to do. Again, we will run a motion-corrected sequence, a propeller in that case. I want to load my new localizer, and you can see that we are really ending up in the pelvis. See, we have more than enough coverage here anteriorly for the air coil. And I will run here a 3 millimeter slice thickness T2 contrast in the prostate, which will take around 3 minutes. So here are the prostate images we just did, where we scanned 3 millimeter slice thickness, and with the same patient setup when we started scanning in the liver. So we ended up in the prostate with that image here. And then on the left-hand side, you see the ideal IQ images, where we can look and place an ROI just in the liver to get the fat fraction. And you can see here on the user interface, the ROI displays is an average of 4.1% of fat here.
So thank you for the time and attention today. We'll be looking forward to seeing you on a future session that we'll be doing. So if there are any questions that anyone has in regards to this particular system, feel free, as we mentioned, to put that into the chat and we'll be able to respond to those.
Thank you so much for your interest today. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.